What is up, everyone? My name is Ashley. I am a new mom, and my baby Memphis, he was born on October 22nd. Today I am going to tell you, or tell my future self, my birth story before I forget. So for me, not that my birth started early, but my story kind of starts early. My due date was November 3rd. So in the beginning of October was when I started my scheduled weekly visits for that last month of pregnancy. And on my very first one, I went to my doctor's office and my blood pressure was high. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was high and it made her nervous. So she handed me a little pamphlet of symptoms, causes, that kind of thing of preeclampsia. And as I was reading through it, there was just a few words that popped out to me that freaked me out. And those words were, may cause death. Or it was, in serious cases, may cause death. And I started crying. She came back in, tried to console me, and she's like, no, we're not diagnosing you. We're telling you that you are at risk. You're not testing positive through your urine, but you do have high blood pressure. You are swollen throughout your body. We just want you to stay on bed rest for the rest of this week. Come back to us on Friday and we'll tell you what we're going to do. So I went home, and all that week, I think it was like 3 or 4 days from my first visit to that Friday, that I was on bed rest, which meant the only things I could get up for was to get myself food that I would need to eat in bed and to go to the bathroom and shower. That was it. So that's what I did. I went to her that Friday. We had our other visit and I was still having very high blood pressure. And there was still no proteins in my urine. I was still very swollen. So she said, you are to stay on bed rest until Memphis decides to come, which will be before your due date. Being on bed rest will help you keep him in longer. If you're up moving around, that means that he may want to come out sooner. And so then she handed me another pamphlet of symptoms to look out for, which was dizziness, blurred vision, seeing stars, nauseous, that kind of thing. So a couple weeks went by. On October 20th, I woke up. My fiance Derek had gone to work, so he was not home. I got up and I was very sick to my stomach, nauseous, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm just hungry. So I go to the kitchen, get myself a bowl of cereal, and as I'm like eating this cereal, like I'm getting dizzy, I'm getting even more nauseous, and everything starts to like blur together, almost like tunnel vision, and I started to freak out. So I called my doctor's office. It was a Saturday, and they told me to go into triage of the hospital I was going to be giving birth at, and they would tell me what to do from there. So Derek and I already had our bags packed because we were kind of ready for this, and I called him, told him to come home so that we could head to the hospital. Now the hospital I was delivering at is 45 minutes away from my house. So I told him, you know, this could just be a false alarm. We could be sent home, but we need to bring everything just in case. So he comes home, we pack our bags in the car, and we head to the hospital. I check into triage, and they hook me up to, you know, the blood pressure cuff that goes off. Like, for me, it was every 10 minutes because my blood pressure was already high. And they tested my urine there. They started me on an IV because they had to take some blood tests, and she said the only reason she was giving me an IV was in case they decided to admit me, I would already have the IV and they wouldn't need to stick me again. Thank goodness they did not stick me in my hand. They stuck me right in my arm, like right here. So that was cool. And I would say we were there for about an hour, and then she came in and said, we have good news and bad news. The bad news is you have preeclampsia, but the good news is that we are going to admit you, and you are going to have to be induced, and Memphis will be here in the next few days. So that was crazy. to me. I knew that it was a possibility, but I didn't think it was going to happen. I really thought that we were going to be sent home because of all the labor and delivery videos that I'd watched on YouTube. It seemed like everybody had to be sent home and wait a little bit longer. Now, being induced was not part of my birth plan. It definitely wasn't. I really wanted to go in on my own, labor at home, and then head to the hospital, but, you know, some things just don't work in everyone's favor. But we got admitted that Saturday, and they started me on what was called, good thing I have everything written down. Cervidil, almost like a little Velcro tampon that gets put up into your vagina. And it helps soften your cervix, because my cervix was not ready at all. I was not dilated, and that was the most excruciating thing. Well, not the most, but it was horrible. I hated it. Like, that was the only thing that brought me to tears. Even going through labor, having contractions, did not make me cry, but them inserting the Cervidil was the worst. So I had to do Cervidil for 12 hours on Saturday and Sunday. And I don't know what was worse, them putting it in or them pulling it out. It was awful. And being on bed rest at home was much different than being on bed rest in the hospital. But being on bed rest in the hospital, I was losing my mind. Thank goodness I had my parents come visit. They hung out with us for those days, and they were also taking care of our dogs. And my nurses, the first couple days, were phenomenal. I loved them. Now, Monday morning comes along, and it was like 4 a.m. when they woke me up and told me that they were going to start me on Pitocin. And my ultimate goal was to do everything naturally, no epidural, no drugs. And I really believe that I could have done that had I not needed to be induced. So, that being said, they started me on Pitocin really early. I think it was about 7 a.m. So they woke me up at 4 to let me know, to shower, eat, and then let my body digest that food before they start me on Pitocin. So they came back in about 7, or no, I guess it was like 6:30. They started me on Pitocin, and they started me on like a slow drip, and they would come in every half hour and build it up. Now, they started me at like 6:30, and then around 7:30, my water broke, which freaked me out because I thought I peed myself. I looked at the nurse, and I was just like, I don't know if I peed myself or not. And she's like, well, we have a little test strip. I'll check it for you. So she swiped the little strip, and indeed my water broke. So she called my doctor. My doctor came in to see how dilated I was, and she came in about a half hour after my water broke, and I was only 1 centimeter dilated. So I was only on Cervidil for about an hour at this point, and I was already a centimeter dilated. Now my water didn't break all the way, so she had to break the rest of it, which was also not fun. And that was that. So after my water had broke, it seemed like my contractions had picked up immensely. Now I was already having contractions on the Cervidil. They were not easy to get through. I mean, I was able to talk through them and breathe through them. They were fine, but it was very uncomfortable. So I was having those contractions for about 48 hours before they even started me on Pitocin. But once they did that and my water broke, these contractions picked up crazily. Like, it was so bad. Now, I can't remember the pain now, but I just remember being really uncomfortable, and once the contractions started picking up, I looked at my nurse and I said, I can't do this without an epidural. Like, I need to get rid of this now. And it was just picking up so fast, and I didn't know what to do. So she gave me nitrous oxide, which is also known as laughing gas, and that was to be used through the contractions to help calm my nerves. Now, using that made me throw up. I did get sick, And I can remember laying in the bed and Derek had gone down to the truck and my parents were in the room with me and my dad was holding my hand, and I looked at him. I was like, you need to hand me a bag. And right when he handed me the bag, I started getting sick. So about an hour later, after the nitrous oxide, they brought up the anesthesiologist to get me started on the epidural. And when she was in there, she was like, oh, how dilated are you? And my nurse told her, well, we checked her at 7:30, it's now 9 o'clock, and she was only a centimeter. And the way that that anesthesiologist looked at me, she was like, and I was offended. I was like, look, lady, I'm in pain. Like, I've been in pain for 48 hours, but I can't take it anymore. But it is what it is. We got through the epidural, and I was nervous because watching other videos, there's some hospitals that won't let the husband stand with you. They have to you have to sit on the couch. So I was like nervous that Derek wasn't going to be able to like be with me, but it was fine. They had him hold me down so that I wouldn't move. The epidural went smoothly. I don't remember feeling pain of the needle going through my spine. I never looked at it. So once it was done, I was finally at peace because, again, I was having contractions for about 48 hours, like steady contractions every few minutes. And I can just remember laying in the hospital bed, like, with my eyes closed. I wasn't sleeping, but I was just listening to everything that was happening around me. The dinging on the screens for my blood pressure being high was just going off, and the lighting may have changed, or the positioning. My camera died, and then while it was charging, Memphis woke up and I had to feed him, so it's been a few hours. After a few hours, or no, it wasn't even, well, it was like 2.5 hours after I got the epidural, they came in to give me the peanut ball. So if you don't know what that is, it's kind of like an odd shaped yoga ball. It goes in between your legs, and then they were going to check me and insert the catheter since I got the epidural. So when they were checking me, this was at, I'd say, between 11:30 and 11:45 that morning. They went to insert the catheter, and all they felt was Memphis's head. I was 10 centimeters dilated and ready to push, which was crazy. So between the hours of 7 to about 11:30, I was 10 centimeters dilated, which was absolutely insane. So they called my doctor, and while my doctor was on the way, Memphis's heartbeat started to drop and go haywire. Huh. You want to say hi? His heartbeat started to drop, and they were starting to like freak out. Once my doctor got there, it was about noon, and he arrived at 12:17, and he was 6 pounds exactly. Huh. On October 22nd, the love of my life was born. Yes. And he is the happiest baby. So he is now 10 weeks and 2 days. Yeah, 10 weeks and 2 days. He loves boobies, mommy's boobies. And he loves to smile. He smiles a lot. And he loves to stand. So yes, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment down below if you have any questions for me or any advice on parenting. And I hope you guys subscribe to join our journey. Say bye. Bye.